But so I like to I hope I could, if possible, share just some of my learnings from the research that I have done on Master's Dharma. The topic that I'm doing is actually pretty interesting. I'm doing on Zhang the true emptiness and wondrous existence, which is very, very big topic, and it's very, very empty. It's still quite empty. I hope it comes into existence very soon. Yeah, so I'm still working on it. There are some findings, and I really like to share. So what I did is I collected all Master's teaching on Zheng Kong Miao You, on the true emptiness and wondrous existence, and then look through all that 180 pieces of teachings that must have done before for many years, and then putting them all together into a flow. So today's I would like to share just a portion of just a tiny portion of it on the topic that I hope will interest everyone, because if, for example, we don't want to well, make everyone happy just by seeing you. Yes, you want that, right? Yes. To be a happy person, that when everyone sees us, we are so happy. Or if you want to grow, improve ourselves, have aspirations. Or if, for example, when people need help, when people need help, people will think of you. When they are in need, would you like to be that person? I definitely like to be. Or if you want to be well respected and loved by everyone, to lead a successful and blessed life. Beyond that, of course, we all hope you can have a very blessed life, just like all recycling volunteers, always so happy, so blessed, and respected and loved by all our brothers and sisters, right? We want to lead such a life. So how do we do that? And that would be 微尘人生 奈米良能. So this is the topic I'd like to share today. Selfless like dust, but useful like nanotechnology. So what does all this mean? I hope, maybe brothers and sisters, you might have heard this phrase before, 微尘人生 奈米良能. It was pretty, Master talks about it a lot about 10 years ago, 2004. Since 2004, Master has been talking, has been preaching 微尘人生 奈米良能, this idea a lot. Of course, nowadays, not so much, but the whole idea is very, very important in our Jing Dharma lineage. It's very related to true emptiness and wondrous existence, how we should be empty and selfless, like dust, but yet so powerful, like nanotechnology. So what does all this mean? So let's begin. In a quick glance, selfless like dust, useful like technology, the whole central idea actually stems from part of the Lotus Sutra that is going to come. It's chapter 20, if I'm not wrong, chapter 20, that talks about the never slighting bodhisattva. I'll go on to that later on. The never slighting bodhisattva is a very interesting bodhisattva, and called Tambosin Pusa. For some that know Chinese, you might have heard such this bodhisattva, very famous. And from this idea, the whole thing grows, and then it actually this whole idea of how that we should shrink our ego, actually Master has been preaching on it as early as 1984. In fact, I believe much earlier, Master has been preaching on it. We need to shrink our ego, 缩小自己, shrink our ego. And then in 2002, that's when Master spoke of selfless like dust. But actually, the whole sentence 微尘人生 奈米良能 began in 2004. Very much. Why? Because in 2003, there is a time when in Taiwan it began the MOE, our Ministry of Education, kickstart this National Nanotechnology Training Program to train nanotechnology personnel, professionals, in order to keep up with this this cutting edge technology that's coming up for this future time. So it is at that time when Master took this nanotechnology as a metaphor to preach what she really want to say, to be selfless yet very useful. And this whole idea is very linked to, it's very interesting how it is so infinitesimal, that means infinitely small, yet it's infinite, very, very big. So how they put all these two ideas together? How could someone or something be infinitesimal yet infinite at the same time? How is it possible? Okay, so we're gonna this is the whole structure of what I'm going to share later on. Let me begin with first the very source of this whole idea from never sliding bodhisattva. That's in Lotus Sutra chapter 20. An excerpt from it, and which is pretty interesting. This is a bodhisattva that lived in past eons, and what's interesting about this bodhisattva is that he's never sliding. And why does he have this name? Because every time when he meets any bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, any monastics practitioners, or even lay practitioners, as long as he's a practitioner in Buddha, in practicing Buddhism, he will always says this. He always says, "I deeply respect all of you, and I dare not slight you, and look down upon or think little of you." Because why? Because you are all practicing the bodhisattva path and shall attain Buddhahood. And many a time he say that there will be people that think that, come on, who are you to tell me I would attain Buddhahood? Who are you? And then they will look down on him, and even to the extent of beating him with sticks or throw stones at him, like, come on, go away. Who are you? And things like that. But what he would do is he would run off to a slightly further distance, and then but still very, very respectful, and say and shout, "I dare not slight you, for you shall all become Buddhists." And so that's why he got the name, the never slighting bodhisattva. He really never looked down upon anyone. And in that gesture, actually, what portrayed, what was exhibited is that very, very humble self, that he feels that there's so much to learn from everyone around him. Everyone is all way before him, and so that's why he's so respectful to everyone else. And such is the spirit that we should learn. Never slighting, never look down upon anyone, and in that manner, reduce our ego, always reduce our ego, and then learn from everyone around us. And it's from this idea, we want to now look at infinitesimal and infinite. How do we reduce our ego, shrink our ego so small, yet to be useful? We see a lot, I think of it as like zero. It's like zero. Zero is as small as you can get. Well, to the limit, to the limits of infinitesimal, you get zero. And from zero, actually this number zero is not really a number. It's zero. It's very related to infinite. You see that how 1 divided by 0 you get infinite, and 1 divided by infinite you actually get 0. So it's like cousins. 0 and infinite, it seems so far away as far as you can get, yet they are related. They're so related and so close that they're kind of like two sides of the coin. When you can be empty, then it is as if you are everywhere. You're all over the place. Just like emptiness itself, like space. Space itself is, well, everywhere. It's just everywhere, but it's empty, but it's everywhere. It's just like that. So I think this whole idea of this infinitesimal yet infinite is like this zooming zero that that encompass, that embrace the whole universe in our heart, in our mind. That everything is just this oneness together, empty yet so big, so that there's nothing, there's no differentiation, there's no me and you, there's no likes or dislikes, there's no differences. When everything's embraced with emptiness, with this big, very huge circle that encompasses everything. I think that's something that is the idea. And then and we see a lot of this comparison of infinitesimal and infinite in the preaching, in Master's preaching. So I put it into a table like this, where the left hand side is you see is all infinitesimal, and the right hand side is all infinite. You see how Master says we should be tiny as dust. Dust is so small, really, really so small. You need a microscope to look at it, and yet dust is everywhere. You see dust everywhere, really everywhere. Yeah, and it's infinite. And how we should shrink the ego, yet expand our heart, and that could be done, right? And then how we should be selfless, 无我, yet really respectful. 有人 is 无 and 有 is nothing and something, combined together. How you could do this actually together, and yet, and again, this infinitesimal and infinite. And then how we are not attached to merits, yet we serve others, is giving without expecting anything in return, is again something with nothing, putting together. And the emptiness and wondrous existence, yes. And then the feeling that I've not served not enough time, I've keep doing this, the feeling, yet heart encompass, embrace whole universe. It's how you can put these two ideas together, and this is how Master interpreted, and it's so understandable and useful. And so Master say in one of this aphorism, shrink our self, or the ego, is the same idea. Shrink our self so much that we enter his eyes and then enter his hearts. How small you need to get to shrink into people's eyes? Well, you really get it to be quite small, because if you're not small enough, then it's going to be quite itchy, when you get into the eyes, it's going to be very, very itchy. So you got to be smaller than dust in order to be into someone's eyes and never hurt, so that you could actually enter his heart. And that's how small you should get. So small, like zero. That's how selfless we should get. So selfless that when people see us, it just feels so joyful, and then enters people's hearts. And that's how we should be. And so let me go through a little history on how, since when Master began speaking of ego. And the earliest I could get is 1984. Of course, I believe it's further than that. Earlier than that. And this is one of the earliest script that I could research in a database. This is a preaching by our Master, one of the very first. She spoke of our ego, and already she talked so well and so complete. She even taught us the 2 methods to lead a successful and blessed life. How? She says the right direction in life should be how to make ourselves respected and loved. Yes, we all want that, right? Like earlier, we were asking how we want to be a successful and blessed life, and Master speaks so clearly 2 methods. And what are the 2 methods? Well, shrink our ego. Yep, shrink our ego. And what does that mean? Shrink as small as we can. So small that we could enter others' eyes, sneak into their, not in the bad sense, but go into their heart, so that others would always think of you, your good image. How we could, so in the back of our mind, we always have that few persons that we really we are really grateful about, and then we always keep the person in mind, just like how we would always think of Master when we need guidance. We put her image into our mind, and then contemplate on what Master would do. So in the same way, we hope we could be that good image in people's eyes, and then in their mind. And that is shrinking our ego. And how do we do that? Once we have the tiniest, if, for example, we have the tiniest bit of arrogance, then very clearly people will dislike us. It's very, very obvious. Just like how even the tiniest dust would itch in our eyes. So even the tiniest arrogance will make people dislike us. And if, on the other hand, if all our action is recognized and praised by people, at the same time we shrink our ego so small that people feel comfortable with us and then respect and love us. If we can do that, then that is a really loving and blessed and valuable life. Very simple to understand, right? Do good and be selfless, and people will feel comfortable around you. So that's number one, shrink our ego. And number two, expand our heart. Expand our heart. How? Embrace all sentient beings. Since we're already loving people far away, yes, because we are doing charity, we are doing international disaster relief, we care for people that is not our kin. We care for all the elderly, we care for all the children. So we love people. We're already loving people far away. Of course, we should. And definitely we love people around us too. And there should be no differentiation in this love. We love all. Let our heart expand, because great love embraces all. A heart that loves all sentient beings is one of Buddha's heart. There was a saying, there's the Sutra that goes, 佛心即大慈悲心. Buddha's heart is the heart of compassion. It's equal. One that is loving and loved. Wouldn't that be the most blessed life? Think about it. How could a life be more blessed? To be one that is loving, you're loving to others, and others love you too. A loving and loved life is really the most blessed. And that's why expanding our heart. So put that together, shrink our ego, expand our heart. Again, that's infinitesimal and infinite coming together. And this is how we should do it. Shrink our ego, expand our heart. And why must I want to share about shrinking our ego and expanding our heart during the time, 1984 and 19-something, the 20th century? During the time, why must I would like to share that? Because during the time, this was an excerpt from another one of our, again from our database. This was spoke by our master in 1992. She says, I always feel that I have not done enough. But many of you referring to our brothers and sisters during the time, they often say, well, with these memories they have earned from this good action, these wholesome actions, I'd like to dedicate this to my parents, to my loved ones, to my kids, so they have good grades, things like that. Our brothers and sisters during the time like to say that, and Master says this as if we have already done so much that we actually have no overflowing memories, that we have leftovers for others, and that's actually not so right. So Master says, I wish that all city volunteers should uphold the mindset that I have not served enough. There's more I can do. There's more I can help. Because only then can we continuously serve others. Because if there's any time we think that we have done really a lot, and now now my actions ended, and with all these memories I've gained, I want to give it to this portion I will give to someone, and then this portion I want to give to Joe, this portion I want to give to someone else. Our action ends there, and we think we've done a lot. So in order to continuously walking the Bodhisattva's path, we have to shrink and think that we really have not done enough. There's really so much we can do, so that we continue, and we keep continuing doing good. So this is the mindset that we should have walking on Bodhisattva's path. And this is, Master already spoke it so many years ago, 1992. And so, this is the reason why Master spoke of how we should shrink our ego. So in 1984, that's why Master preached, shrink our ego. And in 2002, that is when Master first time spoke of being selfless, like dust. And again, I excerpt from her preachings 2002. Because in 2002, she says dust are so tiny. when the wind blows, where would it go? Well, we really don't know. It just goes anywhere, everywhere. And we are like this dust within this vast universe. How dust-like it is. I mean, the universe is so huge. Even, I don't know, smaller, definitely smaller than dust. Dust is really quite big in the microscopic world sense. Dust is actually quite big. We even smaller than that if compared to the vast universe. And where will we go in our life? I don't know. We don't know. I mean, with all the karma that we've accumulated, we really don't know where we will go. But we hope we know. So that's why we walk the Bodhisattva path, so that we are no longer ignorant, because we know what we're doing, and so we know we go to the right place. So we don't want to live a life that we don't know. That's why we walk onto the Suchi's path. But actually, the whole idea we talk about here is that we are so small. Why is there to grudge about? Why do we need to compare? Why do we need to? Why is there to fight? Why is there to, be envious about others? Why he got these things I don't have, and why he get better score, or he's better than me, or I'm better than others? Why all these comparisons and all these grudges? Because this comparison compared to the universe is just as good as nothing. So let go of all these grudges, of these differences. But yet, Master says, but tiny as we are, we should still live with principle. It's not like we are tiny as if we are in existence. We are not existing. No, we should still live with principle. And the difficulty lies in how to sustain one's principle and that aspiration, that vow, while having no grudges with others. Leading everyone onto the good path, because this is aspiration, this is the good path, this is the good direction that we all want to attain. So everyone come together on the same, 有志一同, always on the same path together with no grudges, everyone with the same directions. This is difficulty. That's the difficult part, and this is what we need to practice. We need to do, and that's how we could actually truly achieve a very wholesome result. And this is in 202. Master speak of it again in 202. In fact, in the same day, Master also says dust. Dust are really wondrous, so tiny, yet it is everywhere. I think this idea is very interesting. How it could be small yet everywhere. It's very amazing. And if we can string our ego, become selfless, then that good image will always be inside everyone's mind. That he will be respected and loved. The idea that we've spoken about just now. So be tiny yet everywhere. And it is during that time in 204 that Guo Mengyong Lao Shi, he wrote this song. 微尘虽小，微不足道，一起微笑，随风飘摇。人像微尘，无我所晓，合心合气，同心同道。So he wrote this song about the dust, how it's so small, yet so small as if it's insignificant, yet we can still work together with each other, with the same mind and same goal on the same path. And this whole idea of how to be like dust, selfless like dust. But note, interestingly, so this word 微尘人生 has already been spoken. Actually, a little bit earlier in 202, is noticed that there is actually that nano part, the nanotechnology part, has actually not yet come about. So 微尘人生 comes a bit earlier. It is only later on in 204, then Master add in nanotechnology, how we should be like the nanotechnology, be useful like nanotechnology. And of course, why does Master want to add this phrase in? There is a reason behind. Why? Because Master says, let me just read through this. Sometimes, no matter how tight we shut the doors and windows, after one day, there will still be dust. It's just everywhere. So this is called selfless like dust, tiny yet everywhere. Our love should be like this, entering everyone's heart, inspiring the same love in others. But, the very big but here, if there is only love that is too passive. And when I see this, I say, whoa, really? Oh, well, love is passive. And if you really think deeply, yeah, in some sense, love is actually a little bit more passive, in that sense that if we only love the people around us, for example, we only, we love our loved ones, the people we meet, our neighbors, people everyone we meet, we love them, of course, but we only do that. That is, well, in a way, passive. Is the people that we meet that we love, the people we meet we love. How about those that we never meet? How about those that are far away and then suffering? How about those in another country and because of disaster they are suffering? Do we go? So if it is only love, that the kind of normal love that we are talking about, then that is too passive. And Master says we must also be useful to the society, and such is usefulness. Such usefulness is like technology. How like is this like technology? Why? Because this is why I must speak of this nanotech. How do we should be like nanotechnology? Because, well, brothers and sisters, during that time in 2004, again, well, shrinked too small. Actually, it's too big. I want to speak. I'll go on to it. Why is it? Actually, it's too big, but actually, it's too small. Too small in a sense. How? Master says many a time, our brothers and sisters says that I'm Hexin. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to 传承. And Master says, I'm sure very soon you will get dementia. Well, if, for example, if we keep thinking that we are, Hexin, we're up there, we are already there, we have nothing more to learn. I'm here to teach, and I'm not here to do. I'm here to just to teach, to pass on my experiences to you. So you should follow just what I say, and never really enter into the action itself. Then Master says you'll get dementia. I mean, of course, because we don't do. And if we just get old and never do, then we just sit there and do nothing. And yes, really, we are not using our brain anymore. So this is not what we want to do. So shrink too small. So Master says, when we say 核心, it's not equal to that the title of that role of that being a lead, being like 组长. Yeah, it's not equal. It's not up there. It means when we say 核心, it means that this person, although he doesn't have the kind of the role, the power, the kind of the decisive, in a sense, the power, what's that word? 权力. Nevertheless, but he had brought many people together with him, from the past, in the present, and of course, Master hope in the future, always accompanying and doing together. Such is a person, really respectful. Like all the elderly volunteers or brothers and sisters, we follow them not because they have the title, but because they are just so amazing. They are like mothers and fathers to me. So they're so good, so nice, and always doing that. The exemplar, the role models they are doing before us makes us think that I'm so young, I should do more than them. And so that's why I follow our elderly volunteers behind their path, following their actions. It's not because, again, it's not because they're titled, not because they're old, but it's because they are just so awesome. And their action itself makes us feel that we want to follow the person. So this is the idea of 核心. It's not up there. 核心 is like this. I put these two photos. Is our Lin Junlong Yuanzang. How, as a CEO of our medical mission, he himself also is down there together, working with all the volunteers, cleaning and extra, going to disaster relief, together, same, everyone. And I'm just putting him as an example because because around us we have so many people that are like him too, really so humble, and keep doing, make us feel that this when we chase behind him to do more. So so that's why Master says Master is reminding us that this is what Master, that I, have always been saying. Selfless like dust, but do not forget, be useful like nanotech. So in 2005, Master say again, because some of our brothers and sisters will say in this, that sure, you want me to shrink my ego? Of course. I mean, I can just shut my mouth, don't do anything. Let others decide, and I just follow, right? Wouldn't that be it? Shrink my ego. I'm selfless. Well, is it? Well, of course not. Of course not, Master says. Of course not. Because if that is the case, then we are not actively making ourselves useful. We are not like nanotech. And that would be I mean, we kind of make a, that feeling is no longer shrinking our ego. It's not behind it. There's actually arrogance in it, in a sense that, oh well, you decide. I just follow. No, I don't really care. That is actually not. That feeling is not shrinking. That feeling is. You're still very stubborn in a sense, So when we say shrink my ego, it's not in this sense. Of course, it is really like this. So humble, keep doing, and then like an exemplar. So is in a sense. So now we've been talking a lot of nano here, nano there. So what is nano really? To the let me quick scientific lessons. Nano actually comes from the scientific measurement. It's for example, nanometer. The nano adds 10 to the power minus 9 to basically this. So for example, nanometer is the distance as small as DNA or a molecule. Our high decimeter, the needle is about a million nanometer. The head of the needle is a million nanometer. So you can imagine how small is a nanometer. Let's put this into perspective again. How small is this? For example, we have the Earth, and we multiply that with 0.000000001, we get a marble. So that's how tiny it is. When we talk about nano, that comparison. So for example, if the diameter of the Earth is put as 1 meter, then nanometer is, if 1 meter is Earth, then it's like a marble. So you get what I mean? It's that tiny, super tiny, super tiny, so tiny. Do you see the tiny word? Here, tiny, so tiny that how could it be useful? Well, let me show you a video. It's really amazing. This is a coating done using nanotechnology. So they use this coating on various different materials, and you see the result. How something that's coated with this nano sort of ultra dry, ever dry coating, no water or just never get onto it. Even on gloves that cloth, if we coat it on this nanotechnology ultra dry, you see how it really is very dry. The water just don't stick on it. Even if you use mud, the mud just run away by itself. It really just never sticks. Even if it's oil or the surface with then there's a lot of usage of putting on a hammer, putting on a lot of things. You can put it onto your shoes, so that or on this is a concrete tube. When you put it coated, the concrete will never stick onto the tube. It will be very clean. So in other words, this is like the tube coated. No matter how muddy it gets, it just comes out clean. Okay, so this is Nanotech technology put into action, and while I've been searching the web, this is currently one of the most widely used. So we have coating our car with the nano film, things like that help that will dispel the water. This is the whole idea. This is nanotechnology. And how does it do it? We have seen it. In fact, we have actually seen it in the nature. Nature has nanotechnology. The lotus leaf is able to do that, right? It dispels water. It makes water into droplets like it, and it just dispels it. And you see how lotus is always clean because water does not stick on it. And even if there's dust, as long as there's water, the water will just bring the dust away and clean lotus by itself. So once it rains, the lotus will become very, very clean again. And so the lotus has the kind of dispel water, the hydrophobic effect to it. And how is it possible? Because lotus leaf has this very tiny, you see on the right hand side, very, very tiny bumps, so that water cannot, because the tiny bumps, the water droplets is like poke to stay on top. It cannot go down because these nano bumps are so small. It's as small as almost close to the molecule of the water, and so there's just no enough space for the water molecule to come down, and so it sticks into its droplets. And in the same way, this nano film coating has done. It makes these very tiny nano bumps onto this coating, onto everything, and so water cannot stick. And this is how powerful nanotechnology is. It's just amazing. It's like wondrous. And so, Master says, 奈米良能, be useful, like nanotechnology, although so small, yet amazingly powerful. And I know I couldn't put a better translation for liang, because liang, this word is actually very, it has compassion, it has wholesome, it has goodness, kindness in it, and it's the kind of usefulness that we're talking about here. The strength of goodness, the compassion, the strength and compassion. Master Wei says, 爱的能量, the power of love. It's the kind of 良能, the usefulness that's good, that we want to make our life so useful in a good way. Just like nanotechnology, when they put it into good use. In this sense, Master is speaking to us. And why is it in 204? Because what I said just now, in 203, Taiwan spearheaded this national nanotechnology training program where you see this picture. It's actually put together by even not atoms. So it's specks of atoms. We know that atoms are very small. So we put atoms together into this shape of Taiwan. This is how small it gets. Amazing, really amazing. So we see you can. I did a quick statistic on the number of time, the frequency, the number of time Master talk about selfless like that, 微塵人生, and then in years, like for example in 204, Master spoke 25 times. In 205, she spoke 35 times, and so on and so forth. We see, in this graph, from this graph, you can see how really Master spoke of this 微塵人生 and 奈米良能, because it ties just nice to this nanotechnology era during the time. So Master make use of this idea and put it into our mind to make it and transform it into an idea how we should shrink our ego and then expand our hearts. So from this graph, we see very clearly is in this era the Master talked about this. I also did one for 奈米良能, and we see how, yes, it really began in 204, and then pretty quickly in about 3 to 4 or 5 years, Master no longer really talk about it anymore. So this idea very quickly passes, but when I search on shrink our ego, 缩小自己, I find that Master has been talking about it a lot, and in fact, from really far time ago, 1987 or 1984, we have seen in our database Master's teaching on it, and after which almost every year, Master has been talking about shrink our ego. So we see that how that back in the core, this is one, we can see how this is a core idea in Master's teaching, how we should really shrink our ego. Why do I show this? Because actually, I also want to share that in the board we now have masters, our board masters, working with I believe you might have heard our Jing 老师 share about 法脉中门探源, how we are now actually doing researching on the Master's Dharma. So we have our board masters coming together to research on each of the teachings the Master has taught before. For example, 微尘人生 奈米良能. So we do this historical review of how Master has been preaching this idea. When is the first time Master spoke about it, and why does she spoke about it? Like what I've shared just now, how she spoke of shrink our ego because during that time, brothers and sisters have been thinking about merits, and then we shrink too much, and so Master says nanotechnology, to be like nanotechnology. So this is what we are actually doing in about now, and I want to encourage everyone to also to do back, always review on Master's teaching. Master's teaching is, in a sense, true in a long time. For example, like shrink our ego, she's been speaking on it all the time. Why all the time? Because it's so important. Nowadays we say it's important, so we say 3 times. Master say 492 times. How important it can be. So it's really so important. And have we been keeping it in our hearts? 缩小自己. So remind ourselves again, 缩小自己. 492 times, how important that can be. So, okay, so again, quickly in a glance, this is what we have touched today: infinitesimal and infinite. Without set our heart as a mission, this is my sharing for today. Thank you. I hope to very quickly touch on the 3 questions Q&A, 1 to 3, and then number 4. I had to let our centers to answer on my behalf, because I really cannot answer the question. So very quickly, question 1. The lotus flower chair was designed by Master. What is the reason for the lotus flower chair? And also says that it's advisable not to lean on the chair. Any specific reasons? For those that have never seen it, this is the lotus flower chair that you will be able to see in Hualien Jinsi Hall, or in actually many of our Jinsi Hall around Taiwan. You will see such Lianhua, those flower chair. And why is it designed? Why does Master want to invent this? First thing first, how does it do? This chair, you can sit on it, and if you want to pray, you can also kneel on it. And if you want to put something, we can actually open up the chair and put things inside. So this is the this is the usefulness of the chair. And why does Master design this? Because she thinks of our elderly volunteers. They cannot sit on Putuan. It's very difficult for them. And so she wants to design a chair. But if it's a normal chair, like our normal chair, then we cannot prostrate or kneel down with chairs there. So we need something else. In fact, if we only had chairs, we have nowhere to put our belongings to, and that would make the whole place actually quite messy. And so that's why the lotus flower chair, where you can sit, everyone can sit, very comfortable for our elderly. At the same time, we can put our things, and we can also kneel down, and we can prostrate. So I think the main idea is that every invention in Master's mind stems from compassion. Compassion, I would say, is the father of all inventions, because it's only from compassion that we would invent something that's really, really useful to others. I think that's the main idea. I'm sorry, I think I couldn't go through all the time because we actually have Father Roberts that's going to share from Lesotho, so far away. So I think I'm going to end here, and then let's listen to sharing from our brother Roberts from Lesotho. So back to Malaysia. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone around the world. I hope you can hear me okay from Lesotho. I'm assuming everyone can hear me fine. It's a great honour to be able to share with you all today. It's been a while since I've had that opportunity, so it's great to be able to do so today. Brother Yoping, I thought your sharing this morning was very, very interesting, very fascinating. I think, it's very interesting to me that 2,500-year-old teachings can seamlessly fit in and converge with modern science and technology. And it's quite fascinating if you just think about that for a second, that nanotechnology wasn't something that people knew existed 20, 30 odd years ago, and here we are, we can explain 2,500-year-old teachings in their context. I think it's fascinating. But today I would like to talk to you about what I'm doing in Africa. Now, I was going to talk about two things today. One was Africa, the second was Australia. I think for time, I'll probably just talk about Africa and see how we go, and maybe I can talk about Australia next time. But at the moment, I'm in Lesotho. Lesotho is a very small country that Master Chen Yen talks about quite often. The Tsuji people here are absolutely amazing and fantastic. And very, very fortuitously for me, I'm very rapt and excited that my visit to Lesotho coincides with relief distribution to a number of Lesotho villages this weekend. So later on today and tomorrow, we will be distributing aid to villages in Lesotho. So it's just perfect timing, which couldn't be better. And I'm very appreciative for Sister Jennifer Chen, who's just back from Taiwan on Tuesday, allowing me to come along and participate as well. I'm very fortunate in that I've been able to participate in Tsuji activities all over the world, in Asia, Malaysia, and Taiwan, also in Australia, of course, where I'm from, in Sydney, but also in Africa, South Africa, and now Lesotho. And I guess my first comment would be is that every photo I have taken that's involved with Tsuji, everyone is smiling. And even from this photo on the left, working in the kitchen in our Jing Hall in Sydney, I'm working there with my wife. We were very happy in the kitchen making lunch for everybody. And then on the picture on the right, distributing rice aid to poor people in South Africa, is also very happy and joyous. So very different activities, but very joyful. Now, if we just talk about Africa a little bit in particular, this is a picture of the relief distribution in Johannesburg in July. This is a very, very big activity, as I'm sure everybody is aware of. It's many, many months in the planning, and the Tsuji volunteers go into the community, into quite poor, quite rough, and quite dangerous areas to assess people that need the relief aid the most, and then arrange for them to come on the day of the distribution to receive that aid. And it's a picture of it here. And what's interesting, but it's hard to see in this picture, is that the distribution is actually done outside the police station because this area is so dangerous. And in this field, there is razor wire. So it looks like a prison camp. It's got razor wire, and that is to protect everybody inside, the recipients, but also the volunteers as well. Each distribution like this, there's two big ones in South Africa, in Johannesburg and Pretoria, involves the distribution of 40 tons of rice. So that's two 20-foot containers, and that rice is distributed to 2,200 families, and here they all are waiting. So the people start coming very early in the morning, and if you can see in this picture, people are wearing jackets and scarves and hats, because in the morning it's very cold. It's only 4 or 5 degrees, but very quickly in the morning the temperature heats up to 25 to 30 degrees. So these people, when they arrived in the morning, were quite cold, but then they got very hot during the day, and some people, were finding it quite difficult to just sit in the sun with all those warm clothes on. This is me starting the distribution. Obviously there's a big process to go through, but when we start distributing the rice, we separated the recipients into 3 lines, and then we started presenting the rice to them. So we were picking it up and giving it to these people to carry. And what you can see here in this photo is most people want to put the rice on their heads, because of the 2,200 families that came, I would say 2,199 walked to the venue and then walked home with the rice. There were almost no vehicles, and some people would bring a wheelbarrow or a trolley, but most people just carried it by hand. And the way that they carry heavy weights in Africa is by putting it on their head. So that's 20 kilograms of rice that lady is holding. So the morning progressed, picking up the rice and then presenting it to people, and then putting it on their head so they could carry it home. And again, picking up the rice and putting it on their heads. Now, of course, this, you do this once or twice, it's quite easy, because each bag of rice, of course, is 10 kilograms. So lifting up 20 kilograms at a time, after you've done a few dozen of these, you get quite tired. But it's a good type of tired, and of course there's lots of volunteers there to help each other, so we can take turns so people don't get too tired out. So this is a very fun activity, but I must admit that what really I found quite touching was when I saw this small boy walking past. Now, in this picture, it's a bit hard to see how tall he is, but he was tiny. I mean, when I saw him out of the corner of my eye. I thought he was 6 years old. Like in Australia, this would be a 6-year-old child. He was really, really small, and he was carrying the rice all by himself. And it attracted my attention so much, I stopped what I was doing and went over and talked to him and asked him, what the situation was. And, he told me that, in his family, his father doesn't live with the family. He lives with his mother and his grandmother and his younger brothers and sisters. He's the oldest child. His mother was too sick to come to the distribution, and his grandmother was too old. So he had to go there all by himself. He had to walk all the way there, queue up, wait in line, and then carry 20 kilograms of rice on his head. He's got some soap and some shoes there, carry that all the way home and almost run the gauntlet to get home safely. And hopefully on the way nobody would try and take that rice from him. And when I saw this child and talked to him, I found it very, very touching and quite moving that, that here I was thinking that, how lucky I was that if I got tired just handing people rice, I had a lot of people that were there to support, that could take over so that we could all support each other and not be too tired. But this poor child had no choice, regardless of how heavy or how far he had to walk. He had to do that all by himself to look after his family. And it really struck me too that even though this venue was full of people and they were coming past us, and it's hard to see one person as being different from the other because there are just so many of them. But this was a very good reminder to me that everybody is individual. Every recipient of the aid has a story, that they are different, that they're unique, And it really amazes me just how good a job the G South Africa and the Sutra volunteers do to go into the communities and find people that really need help. Out of the thousands of potential people they could give it to, they really find the people that really need it and make sure that they arrive at the venue on the right day at the right time to receive it. Because as well, as you can imagine, these people are quite poor. So even having access to mobile phones, internet is very difficult for them. So how do you communicate to 2,000 odd people to come to the venue like this? The other interesting thing that happened this time, I did the distribution this year and also last year, but what happened this year that was different to 2016 was that when the recipients come, they have to give a document, a piece of paper to say that they're entitled to receive the aid. This time we finished all of the rice, we gave it all out, and there were still people left over with these letters of entitlement. And when we went through them and checked, it turned out that there were a lot of counterfeit documents, and it caused us to think what to do. And I was quite curious what the G South Africa people would do, because there wasn't enough rice for the people, and obviously some people had got rice that shouldn't have, and people that should have missed out. So what would happen? And I was very impressed with the brothers and sisters in South Africa because with their response. And their response was the people that have got it that shouldn't are still needy, so we should help them. And the people that missed out, there was a commitment made to them that they would be given the rice so that they wouldn't miss out. So I thought that was very, very good and very touching. Okay, I think, Sister Su Ching, I will stop there. I'll just show this one picture, from Australia, just to show again my point at the beginning that everybody is always happy with the G. This is our Sydney branch office of Suji earlier this year, saying hello to everybody. But I think I'll keep my Australia presentation for next time.